Okay, and we are live. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Yeah, it should be a fun one. I flashed a bit of a video that I was using to refresh myself on the format on the screen from a pretty obscure YouTuber known as YGO from Zero. I don't know if you haven't seen his stuff, definitely check him out. He's pretty good. But so this is going to be a fun one. It's going to be an Amsterdam format, which is the last format before the ban list. So, a lot of people view Chaos format as that last format, which is fair because it's the last format that's really played before this. But, Amsterdam's technically the last format that was held. Battle City Amsterdam was a tournament that happened. And so, it was something that that people played. And so it included the cards from Ancient Sanctuary, which does cause things to be a bit different here. But I'm going to just shuffle up the standings like that. And now we're going to... Oh, no. That's bad. What happened here? Well, this is not good. Technical difficulties, folks, it looks like. Well, let's go to challenge here. Okay, there we go. All good, all good. So yeah, let's start the tournament and we'll get ready to go. Yeah, I'm receiving a DB message, but I generally don't like to open those on stream. Just, because I don't know what it will be. And so I don't want to potentially flash the audience with something bad. But I'll check that after stream. Rydia, if you're here. If you're not, then yeah, I mean, I'll just check it after stream, so it should work out there. But anyways, we've got the tournament. I sent it in the Discord chat. So, yeah, this is the setup here. We got Lalo versus Model, Indie Experience versus Kuro Alexandria Yuki, Hoy versus Haiku, and Dump Truck versus Chef Steph Curry. So, yeah, let the locals begin. And sorry for the sort of like, sort of frantic, hectic energy here. There were people signing up, right to the wire, which does happen with these. But, sometimes it's a bit more hectic than other times. So either way here, we got the stream started and we got some games going on here. So I'm excited to see what happens here. I'm curious to see who will win, what decks will win. When I covered the format, I sort of just focused in on just like, the Monster Gate Turbo stuff, because like Reading Gate Turbo is super strong in this format because you get triple DMOC, which is just crazy with Monster Gate. So you're hitting DMOC all the time. And you got triple Monster Gate, you got triple Scapegoat. You've got so much power there. And so it is very, very good. Anyways, we've got Lalo versus Model here. So let's dive in to the games, see what happens, see how it turns out. And yeah, we got some good luck, have funds going on here. Lalo is starting off here. Let's see what they're on. And let's see what Model Zero is on as well. Lalo's going to draw here for turn. Model says, I apologize in advance. So, oh boy, that seems like it's something. Seems like it's something wild there. You always love to see it in a tournament when when you open up the stream and your opponent's just like, I apologize in advance. It just is what it is. Yeah, it's going to be kind of rough here, depending on what that deck is. But we'll have to see what it is here. Model's going to draw. Go for a reasoning here. So a lot of good options here. 8 is generally the good one because they're triple DMOC. Ooh, hitting a Morphing Jar. I mean, Book of Moon can set it down, and then Book of Tai you can flip it up. So, that is not necessarily the worst thing in the world. But yeah, as Hoy says, this one might be quick and brutal, and I'm feeling that too. So, yeah, I mean, the tournament and also this match, the whole, depending on what this goes with. Clody, I didn't know. Did you want to join the locals? I didn't know you were online now. Damn, I should have reached out and asked if you were free to join. But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Jar and reasoning decks. But it seems like this is a bit of an FDK deck with that Last Will and Gillosaurus coming down here. So, we might be seeing some stuff going on. Double tribute for the DMOC here. Okay, actually, that is really good. Now, the awkward thing here is that Last Will must be activated before you send a monster from field to grave. Rip, going to work. Yeah, so we can get you in this one then. I had a really busy weekend this weekend. Well, I do still have it. But so I won't quite, be as flexible with my timings this weekend. So I had to hold the locals now. Normally I hold a vote to see what works for best for most people. But unfortunately, now is really the only time I can do it. But yeah, okay, actually, this might, it's a bit tricky. So they had the reasoning to hand. And so, yeah, they do have to, well, I mean, they could just go for a weird OTK or something like that. They're going to go Senshi now. And then probably reasoning, I assume. Yeah, reasoning. So, yeah. But reasoning here, so, I mean, they're calling 8 again. I maybe would have called 5, as 5 does win the game here if they hit it. But Lala might have back row to stop a Catapult Turtle here. But, you know, into the face of a Sentry, that might be a bit awkward. Hidden Cyber Dart, though, so, you know, it doesn't really matter there. So, yeah, this will still be 3,100 damage, though, getting in there. Maybe even more if the Cyber Dart comes out and attack. And, yeah, it will come down and attack. It's going to be 4k damage here, hitting in for half of Lalo's life points. So that's pretty good. Yeah, because you can't attack directly with Senshi, so that part doesn't really matter as much. But yeah, hitting with the Demok first, I do like that play, because this basically forces Lalo to activate Scapegoat now and lose all their cards if they want to do that, or just take a bunch of damage, right? So if they want to have a token up for Scapegoat in case they've got a Monster Gate of their own, then they'll have to activate it, you know, basically after the Demok attacks in, or else they'll lose all their tokens. So, yep, and that's the end of the turn. So the Sentry will go back to deck, or extra deck, that is, and that's going to be it. So, yeah, Lalo's in a bit of a tricky spot here, but Graceful will definitely help out with that. Wowza. Yeah, Graceful is pretty good in these formats. Setting up your graveyard, drawing deeper into the deck as well. A lot of powerful stuff you can do with Graceful. Pitching a Demok there. And will they be pitching anything else as well? Well, they have to, but, you know, what else are they going to pitch is sort of the question here. Will it be, okay, a Crane. So you got the Light and Dark in graveyard. So you could potentially go Banish Light, Banish Dark, go for Dim Fuse. Oh, Snatch is going to be pretty good here. Now, what do you take with the Snatch? Do you take the Scientist? They are going to take the Scientist. Oh, and Mall Zero just scooping it up at that point. I don't think it was necessarily the end of the game there. They still had to get 8k in. But, I mean, yeah, that is very good. Not going to lie. And pitching the Demok there, it is a sign that they had ways to get into another Demok, because otherwise you'd keep the Demok in hand and potentially hard tribute out over whatever fusion monsters you go for off Stein. But yeah, Stein is, or not Stein, Scientist. I'm Stein-pilled now because I've been in the Stein format so long that it's just, you know, in my head. But yeah, let's see. Okay, I did shuffle the seeds, by the way, Hoy. Yeah, but it's just a challenge thing, I think. Okay, wow. And Maul is passing back, it looks like. Or is the Lalo passing? What happened here? I'm curious what happened. I don't know exactly what's going on in this. Oh, no. Lol, so this is why I never could play a Scientist deck after paying to go to a tournament, lol. Oh, yeah, the bricks. The bricks! That's Scientist FDK for you. That's how it happens sometimes. But, yeah, nothing you can really do there if you're on the Scientist deck. And, yeah, the Crane's going to hit in for 16. That does importantly drop model below 7,000. So now they can't do the full FDK there. C-Spare asks, so what's the difference between Amsterdam and Warrior format? Glad you asked. Warrior format has the ban list in place. And that is a major, major difference, because it means that, you know, you don't have triple Demok running around. You don't have CD running around. A lot of better sort of, you know, health of the format sort of things are there. Hi, Viking Goats. Welcome to the stream. Happy to have you here. Came in for a pretty interesting one. This is going to be a very wild format, Amsterdam format. So it's just like, you know, the format right before the ban list hit. So, you know, no card is banned. So you can play any card that was released in the game up to this point. And for some reason, Demok was at 3 copies as well. So don't know why that was, but that's how it is. And it's pretty good. Pretty good for Monster Gate Turbo decks. Trunade coming down here, bouncing everything back to hand. And that's going to be pretty good, because now Lalo can go for a major play here potentially with the Monster Gates, with all that stuff. But it looks like they're just going to set 2. Oh, maybe go for a card destruction, or just attack into it thinking it's a Morphing Jar. That's probably it. This format is not recognized by formatlibrary.com. And I understand why it isn't, because frankly, this format is very, very high variance, very, very sacky. In my opinion, it's basically Tier 0 Reason Gate Turbo. And that can be very fun for people. Like, I personally find that very fun because I love Reason Gate Turbo. But it definitely is not like necessarily the most competitive format in the world. The only information for it is really just on my channel. So I have an Amsterdam Duels playlist. If you go to the playlist section on my channel, and in that I sort of have videos showing off games in the format and talking about the different decks in it. So that would be the real only place to find information. You can also check on the YG from Zero Discord server, linked in the description down below, and you can sort of just go to the Amsterdam channel, ask people about it there. But yeah, this format's very, very underexplored. Not much information out there about it. But it's very cool. And this is based around Battle City Amsterdam, which I do think Format Library has listed as a tournament, maybe in their Chaos section. So you can check some historical deck lists from that. But yeah, unfortunately, there isn't really much information about it in the modern day. But hopefully this stream will be educational for you, though, because we'll be showing off a variety of games in it. We get 8 people in this tournament, so it should last, a fair bit. So, yeah, it should be fun to show off these games. Although, this first one is definitely a game. It is a game that happens. I mean, with triple Monster Gate run around, Science FTK is something that people try to play. The issue with Science FTK, and this is something that I think just applies to FTK in pretty much every format, is that's not consistent enough to actually consistently win. Same limited list as Chaos format. That is indeed correct, Viking Goats, which is part of why this format is a bit less competitive than Chaos format, because the limited list in Chaos format felt like it was trying to actively check some things in Invasion of Chaos, the set that came out for it. But this format, the cards from Ancient Sanctuary released, and no list was released to sort of stop the degenerate decks that were produced by that set. And so that's why it's just sort of like, kind of hectic here. But yeah, same limited list as Chaos, so no cards are banned. And you have crazy things like DMOC at 3 copies, so, we just hit that off Monster Gate, but not the most unlikely thing in the world. And now you can just get back whatever you want to here, honestly. There's so much good stuff in Grave. Painful Choice if you want Graveyard setup where you have Revival. Pre-mat, potentially bring back the Crane, drawing a card. It looks like they went for Forceful, I think. I think that was what that was. Oh my goodness, CED coming down as well. And that's just the end of the game. That is, you do Forceful to check if they've got Karibo, and then you attack in 58, burn with CD. Oh, I mean, Dimension Fusion as well. Oh my god. I mean, this is the format for you, right? This is what happens right here. This is when I first made videos in this format, I called this the most powerful version of Monster Gate Turbo. And the commenter mentioned Airblade. Airblade might be a little bit more powerful, but I mean, seeing this sort of stuff, like, this is just insane, right? Like, I don't know how it gets, crazier than that. But Lalo is going to be winning that first game. Let's dive in to the indie experience versus Kuro Alexandria Yuki, if we can. Outskilled, yes, as C-Spare says, outskilled. A lot of skill going around in this format. And oh my goodness, this is a pretty wild game going on here. We got Gravity. We got Orca Mega Fortress of Darkness here. Wow, okay. Playing around with some of the less explored strategies introduced in Invasion of Chaos. So it seems like stall burn, but it seems like also a bit of a Legendary Ocean sorts of things. Because, you've got Orca Mega Fortress of Darkness, pairing it with the Torpedo Fish and the Cannonball Spear Shellfish. And Legendary Ocean, there it comes, set in 1. So that might be another Orca, but I feel like you would have just summoned that out in attack if it is. I mean, it's awkward because they can still clear it with Warrior Lady, but like they can do that anyways, so a bit tricky there. Witch coming down as well, and they're gonna attack into that with the Warrior Lady. I think that is the correct move there. It's just a Cannonball Spear Shellfish. That's rough. That is unaffected by spell cards, but not unaffected by Warrior Lady. So that's kind of rough. Yeah, so even though this is a very interesting deck, I'm not sure it will last that long because Kuroyuki 1 did win the first game here. And it's looking like they might win the second, though. I mean, Wave Motion Cannon going to be at 5 counters, so that's 5,000 damage. If they can just get in that 2,000 additional damage, then, they might still be in it. But it is definitely a rough spot to be in for sure, especially with that Gravity Bind gone there. Damn. Yep, pretty much Viking Goats. Just Chaos Format plus Monster Gate. And I do think that Monster Gate is just such a game warping card there. Oh, damn. The pass into the Demok summon. Demok get back. I mean, honestly, anything. You honestly just, you could just go MST, snipe the unknown back row. Just to try and do that. But yeah, Monster Gate's crazy this format. Demok at 3 is just nuts. But yeah, GG indeed, Malzer. I mean, I think it's good that you brought it, right? Just to try it, just to see what happens. But yeah, Jars off Reasoning always hurts. And hitting a Draining Shield. Yeah, that would have been a way to potentially recover a little bit in this game. But unfortunately, did not work out well for Yes, My Darkness here. But still, cool bringing a very interesting deck here. And if that Draining Shield had hit, maybe things would have turned out differently. So I think that's awesome. Oh, not -1. +1. But GMYFS, what is up? Not much is happening this locals here. Very, very fun stuff so far from what we've seen. I'm excited to see what other people are playing. Let's check in on Hoy versus Haiku. And then we'll check in on Dumpfrick versus Chef Steph if that game's still going on. But yeah, that was indeed quick in the experience. But I mean, you brought an interesting deck, so it's very, very cool to see. But this format is a lot faster paced. So, it makes sense that it's a bit quicker than normal. But yeah, this locals is just flying by. I mean, we're only 16 minutes in, and we're already, almost done with the first round. But I guess this game is still in round 1. So, this one could be lasting a little bit. Yeah, this might be a match between two more typical Chaos-style decks. Oh, also, Night Assailant is in this format. That is also a very important thing to note. Night Assailant and Blade Knight are both in this format as well. So that's another sort of difference from Chaos format. And it also, let's see, does Night Assailant say discard or send from hand? Send from hand to grave. So Night Assailant is another counter to CED, because if you do CED and you've got Night Assailant, then you get back a flip with it. So it's another way to sort of recover from a CED effect. But it looks like a CED effect did go off here. 100 life points left from Haiku, so not looking the best, especially as Hoy banishes a Light and a Dark, bringing out a BLS, but the TT will stop that BLS. So Haiku is still in it for now. Very, very intense stuff. It looks like maybe, no, Hoy couldn't have done the CED here. So I guess, or maybe the CED was hit by something else. And maybe some like Kaiku's got it and banished it. Maybe. I don't know. But what will Haiku do? They do have 2 cards to Hoy's none. So that is something. Getting in for 1,600 damage. This puts a bit of a clock on Hoy. Setting a back row as well. So, they can potentially protect that for a bit. Hoy just setting 1, passing back. Okay, Haiku might be in it. 100 is definitely a scary spot to be in. I think CED probably just ends the game if it ever comes down, because you just probably use the effect. But yeah, that's true. As Indie Experience says, you've always got enough for return from the different dimension. I'm not sure if return is in this format or not. I'm trying to remember. I don't think it is. It came out in the exclusive pack, not in the movie pack, I believe. But I could be wrong. GLM says, read the title in Bowser's voice from the Mario movie. Open the gates! I can't do a Jack Black, but yeah. Oh, and that'll just be the end of the game. So Haiku actually managed to take that one at 100 life points. That's wild. Wild stuff. But if it works, it works. And that was pretty cool to see. So awesome to see that go into game 2. Let's dive into Dump Truck versus Chef Steph here. Just see what's going on here. So it seems like, oh boy. Oh boy. Seems like we got 2 exciting decks here. More Monster Gate Turbo sort of stuff, it looks like. It looks like it's 1-1. So both players are done there. But yeah, I looked away for a second. The game's over. That's this format for you. A lot of that will be happening here, I assume. It's just so fast-paced. It's wild. People do not expect this out of a DM era format. And, Amsterdam Format is just like, I don't care. I'm just going to end the game in 2 seconds, Games often end on, like, turn 3. Because, you set up for turn 1. You just go Monster Gate shenanigans on turn 3 after, firing a scapegoat or something. And it just GG, Yeah, 3,700 off that BLS there. And this is going to be a bit tough for Dump Truck to recover from. They do have a Latent Dark and Grave, so they do potentially have ways out of this. But nope, that's going to be the end of the game. So GG's indeed. Yeah, rough stuff. Just an MST, a meta, and a meta. Oh, rip. Yeah, the metas are cool, but, unfortunately did not quite manage to carry Dump Truck there. But still very, very cool stuff there. So Chef Steph moving on. Whoops. I keep doing the -1 thing there. Yeah, it's already almost over. It's kind of wild. Works out well for me because I got a bit of a busy weekend, as I mentioned before. But yeah, let's check in on Lalo versus Kuroyuki here. See how this matchup's going. Or we could dive back into, Haiku versus Hoi. Let me know in the chat, what games you want to see here. Because these games do go quick, so we might not have as much of a chance to just, jump into all of them, and see what happens. So, yeah, definitely let me know what's going on here. But yeah, this is a very, very exciting match. We're almost to the semifinals already, as Indie Experience says. And yeah, it's cool to see things going so quickly. It's a very, very fun format, fast-paced format. If you want that sort of thing in your DM era formats, this sort of taking chaos and just make it even more high octane, which is something that a lot of people would not expect, but it's how it is. Malzer says, "Joke's on you. I lost the fastest. I'm glad we were able to catch it on camera." But it's fun to play sort of an FDK deck occasionally, see what happens. Now in the experience, Model Zero actually lost the fastest. We got it on camera. We got it on stream. Saw the loss happen. And that's how it goes. Yeah. It's oh my goodness. Wow. Card destruction pitching CD BLS. I mean, that's how it happens occasionally. They're very, very powerful cards, but you can't just brick on them. So yeah, and with that DD Warrior Lady and that DMOC there, it's unlikely that you're really going to get a Dark Engrave, just by committing it to field, right? So, Crane coming down. This might mean that there's a Monster Gate or something there. Oh, okay. Change of heart here. Now, do you take the Warrior Lady or the DMOC? Taking the Warrior Lady, I think that is correct here. Because, Warrior Lady crashes into DMOC. That way you get to choose to banish them both. Whereas if you just attack DMOC over Warrior Lady, maybe your opponent wanted to choose to banish. So, I think that makes sense, even though Lalo does take some damage here. But yeah, Inexperienced says, can't even win the X1 speedrun. That's how it happens sometimes. But nothing you can really do about that. I think maybe if I was Lalo, maybe I would have just kept the BLS CD in hand, but I get pitching them, you are in a bit of an awkward spot. You're down to 3,900, and that's a scary spot to be in against some of the aggressive decks in this format. Reasoning, though, going to be pretty good here. Reasoning potentially hitting something pretty strong. And Kuroyuki's calling an 8 here, trying to hit that DMOC, which I do think is the right choice because there's triple DMOC in this format. So, might as well call 8, but hitting a 6 instead in the form of Jinzo. So, Jinzo sticking on the field. And that's one of the powerful things about Reading Gate Turbo in this deck is you've got a variety of good options to play, not just the DMOCs. Oh, but that's Cyberjar. Cyberjar's going to get a little bit nasty here. Popping the Crane and the Jinzo there. Banishing 5 cards, or not banishing, but, revealing 5 cards, and grabbing cards for Kuroyuki, grabbing cards for Lalo. And that Spy is going to be able to wall up potentially really good. And Lalo gets no monsters there, so unfortunately they can't really continue their aggressive push. They also know Harpy's Feather Duster is coming. They know Forceful and Coffee is coming as well. Oh my word, that's just rough. That is rough. That is really rough. Not really anything you could really do there, because if you keep cards in hand, you lose them. If you keep them on field, you lose them. So kind of rough. But yep, as G-Lam says, you call 8, they flip over a Jinzo. You call 6, they flip over a DMOC. We don't make the rules. It's just how it works, That's how the Yu-Gi-Oh gods choose to make things happen here. Yeah, this is just tough. Law really doesn't have many good options. I mean, yeah, there's only the Spy. So, I believe there's only the Spy. There's Spy, Duster, Comfy, Forceful, one unknown card, but I don't quite know. But yeah, Mal says that's skill if I've ever heard it. So yeah, I mean it is a skill. Luck is a skill, as they say. But yeah, definitely not a skill that everyone has, unfortunately. But the best way to capitalize on luck being a skill is to make it so that you maneuver into positions where the luck will either be minimized or, you can capitalize on good luck. That's something that separates the great players from the good players. So, yeah, we'll have to see who can tap into that skill there in this locals here. Graceful pitching, an MST, and a True Nade. Okay, the Sentry will help out a bit because you can send back the Duster, commit your cards to board, and play around the hand rips. So that was really good that they drew into a hand rip there. Helps out quite a bit. So yeah, better lucky than good, as Magic the Gathering players say, as G Lamb says there. And yeah, that's how it happens. Balzer says, might just do a New Vegas run and max out my luck, and then find a way to play TCGs in that game. I'd be king. I would love a mod in Fallout New Vegas where it's just like you get to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And the luck stat actually plays a role. That'd be so funny. I would love to see it. Forceful sending back, probably Duster there, I assume. We didn't get to see it here just as a watcher, but I assume it was the Duster. Maybe something else, though. And, Law's maybe just like, I'll bite some of the hand rips. I got Scapegoat set here so that can chain to Duster. Maybe they've got Io. Oh, Duo getting fired first. Ooh. Io is coming down there. Okay, so there is the Io. Kuryuki still has to take the 1,000 from the Duo because it was indeed a cost and not just a part of the effect. So that is something there. But yeah, chaining the Scapegoat as well is important there. So yeah, Manticore Exodia, that would have been the true FDK deck there. Manticore Exodia, for those of you who don't know, is a deck that basically loops Manticore of Darkness, and basically, you bring it back to field, send another Manticore, bring that back to field, send another Manticore, etc. And you basically draw infinite cards off card of safe return. So, yeah, I'm just gonna send a message to Kuryuki here. Make sure to take 1,000 from Duo. I'll rip the other copy of Spies Engrave. Yep. So that's how it goes. Yeah. I mean, it's always a choice to run 2 or 3 spies. I like 2 in this format, because the deck space is all really, really tight. So I still think running 2 is the better play overall. But yeah. As in the experience says, Elma loops are also legal. And this might be scaring people away from this format, saying like, oh, Elma loops are legal. You've got like, Science FTK running around. You've got Manticore, Exodia, etc. But I will say, like, a lot of those FTKs, very inconsistent. You saw in this local stream, someone brought FTK, and it did not work out for them. And that happens quite a bit, because while those decks, when they high roll, can be very good, and just your opponent can't do anything with that. If they do brick, then, they're really bad. So, that's how it goes sometimes, though. But, yeah, it always hurts more when they win. Yeah, it does kind of hurt more. I mean, even as an FTK player, if you play FTK potentially, it's, you can win and just be like, oh, why is this allowed in the game? Why can I do this? I shouldn't be able to do this. But yeah, that's how it happens sometimes. I still haven't seen the 1,000. So I'm gonna actually message Lalo. Kuro should be 1,000 less from Duo. Yeah, because it's part of the cost, not the effect. So, Model says, I have bad imposter syndrome, so I have to apologize a lot in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now. When I was a young man, I was heartless. And I mean, imposter syndrome, honestly, like, I have that too a bit. Because, like, why should I have a channel, right? Why me of all people? And the reason is because I did it, right? Like, I'm the one making these videos. I'm the one, putting together the videos and the tournaments and all that stuff. And so it's like, at the end of the day, like, imposter syndrome will always strike, but at the end of the day, you're the one doing it, right? You're the one playing in these tournaments. And so if you play in tournaments, you get better at the game, and you win tournaments as well, because, as you get better at the game, you likely will win a tournament or two here and there, especially in these local tournaments, which are a lot smaller, single elimination. So it makes it more likely to win. So don't have imposter syndrome. You deserve to be here. You deserve your wins. And, it's just the difference between people who do and don't, right? It's, if you do something, you're always going to feel a bit awkward because you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I the one who deserves to do this, right? But no such thing as deserving one thing or another. It's just those who do and those who don't. And, yeah. I mean, when I go on rambling speeches like that, I'm like, why am I a streamer? Because that is definitely, a bit of a, like, normal streamers don't do rambling speeches like that. So why am I here? But, I'm the one doing it. So I'm the one streaming, and that's how it is. Thank you, G-Lam. They say, YGO from Zero is a big inspiration for me to continue making content. You and Janjo are just such a vibe. Really cool guys to chit-chat with. thank you so much. It means a lot to me. I mean, part of why I'm doing this is because I want to, inspire people to, make videos, stream, do whatever in Yu-Gi-Oh, in retro Yu-Gi-Oh specifically as well. And I just think there's a lot more room for people to jump in and do it. It's just a matter of doing it, right? I'm no one special. I'm just someone who sat down one day and was like, I want to, make a channel about this. And then that grew into a big community, grew into tournaments, grew into a ton of other stuff. So, if I can inspire people, that's what I want. So, yeah, this is going to be pretty rough though with that monster gate. Probably should wrap things up. I mean, it's very likely that the Lotto just hits a monster that has more than 800 attack and the Crane will do it. So that's going to do it for this game, it looks like. Yeah, not really much that Kuryukin can do against that. So, yeah, it all worked out there. But thank you, GMYFS. You are special too. We're all special. That's the secret they never tell you. Everyone is special, honestly, in their own way. So, that's how it goes. Like, if you're ever feeling like, down and like, oh, like other people are better at this than I am, or just like any sort of feeling like that, any sort of imposter feeling, know that like you are not alone out there. Everyone feels that way. As Hoy says, you are my specials. So hopefully no one here experiences anything on the scale of the Shibuya incident. That would be not very good. But but yeah, everyone is special in their own way. And it just recognize that in yourself, look inside, see what's special there, see what you like to do, just follow what you want to do, follow what you're good at doing as well. And I guarantee you there is something you're good at doing, right? No matter who you are, there's something you're good at doing. Everyone out there has, their own special thing. Even if other people also share that special thing, it's something that you can do, so do it. Don't be intimidated by other people doing it as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's my little motivational speech here. I should be a motivational speaker. That's what I should do. I should get a van down by the river and just be a motivational speaker. So, yeah, we all have Shibuya PTSD. Yeah, I will say, I read that in the manga too. I didn't read it as it was coming out. I managed to just like binge it when I got caught up to JJK in the middle of the culling game. And, yeah, it was a wild ride. That Shibuya PTSD, oh, it hits different when you binge it all at once. So I'm glad that anime watchers also got a taste of that Shibuya PTSD. Oh, good stuff. I love that arc. I think that is a very, very good arc. One of the best modern shonen arcs, in my opinion. I won't spoil any of it for people who haven't seen it, but I do recommend it. Maybe if you thought JJK was like mid in season 1, which I did see people saying a lot, I don't get why. I felt like it was pretty good all the way through, but I think that it's a very, very good arc and from a very, very good show. So definitely check it out. Malzero says, hey, to be fair, living in a nice Sprinter van, traveling around and staying near water is kind of a vibe in 2024. That's true. I mean, honestly, like when the pandemic hit, I feel like a lot of people realized that they could just take their stuff on the road and just do things like that. And so like you could potentially do that now as well. Virtually working is a thing that people do. So, you could travel while you do that and have a lot of fun. So I encourage you to do that if you have the chance to. I don't really have the chance to that much. So, and also I wouldn't be able to take my setup on the road too. So if I did go on the road, it would mean probably not really many videos in the future. But it's a fun thing to do. So I am a One Piece fan, C-Spare. I love One Piece. One Piece is probably my favorite manga of all time. That's saying something. Yeah, I read a fair amount of manga. But I just love One Piece so much. It is so, so good. Yeah, for people out there who haven't checked out One Piece, definitely check it out as well. That's a great, great show. GLM just got Anime Current a couple weeks ago. Yeah, anime in a great arc. Egghead Island is peak stuff. I'm not the biggest fan of the One Piece anime because I find that they like drag things out a bit too far. Like, spending like a chapter an episode is like not really that good. But like people like it and that's what matters, right? I'm not going to rag on people for liking something, especially when it's so adjacent to something that I really like. And I do like looking up clips of, how they adapt certain scenes from the manga. That's really fun to me. So, yeah, I'm just an anime guy. I mean, I just love the anime and it's just so good. Oda is on another level. And I love to see people jumping on the One Piece train, no matter how they do it. Anime, live action, whatever, it's just such a great story. So I'm glad to see more people getting exposed to it. If I could afford a box truck, maybe. Yeah, if I could, yeah, that'd be neat. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that someday. Just driving around the country, doing Yu-Gi-Oh videos. That'd be fun. But Hoy says hosting an Amsterdam tournament from Amsterdam, that would be also really sick. Yeah, I'd have to find a way to ship over my truck there. But yeah. Oh, One Piece TCG. Okay, yeah, that's pretty solid too from what I've heard. I've never played it myself, but I have heard a lot of people really enjoy it. And it's just very fun. Also, we're starting to see some of the insane combos that you can do in this format. I mean, we saw like Monster Gate into the DMOC, get back Graceful, go for Graceful, pitch, some powerful cards here. Like, it's just incredible what this deck can do. So strong. Painful choice as well now to set up the graveyard even more. I mean, it is just crazy. Like, this is just such a wild format. I love this deck so much. Indie Experience says, my passion is unfortunately oversaturated. I'd been thinking of making a channel for years, but never did. Realistically, I have no faith for it to succeed. On another hand, I 200% agree that Ben is such an inspiration for Retro Yu-Gi-Oh! Thank you so much, Indie Experience. Fantastic to talk and listen to. Much love, Ben. I am spelling you that what you are doing is special. Never allow yourself to think otherwise. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you so much, Indie Experience. It means a lot that you say that because, it always feels good hearing that support. And if I can offer that support to all of you out there in the audience, that's what I want to do. I will say, like, don't go into a channel saying, like, this must succeed, right? Like, even if you think a channel won't succeed, if it makes you happy, if you're making videos about something that you enjoy, like talking about or making videos on, just do it, Like, I never necessarily, like, went into this channel thinking that, it would be a big thing. And, frankly, it isn't really a big thing, right? It's, like, compared to a lot of the other YouTubers out there, we're still, like, small potatoes, right? But I'm not doing it for like this sort of like, money or the subscriber count or anything like that. I'm just doing it to try and, grow the community and, provide service out there that like I wanted to see. And that's what we're doing here. And I'm glad that people have coalesced around that and really enjoy that. And I'm glad that we've made the community that we've done. Janjo Zone, welcome to the stream. And yeah, Janjo Zone says, if only there was a live stream talking about Yu-Gi tubing and getting into Yu-Gi tubing. Yeah. That'd be a quite a good thing to have out there, right? But yeah, we actually did record a podcast episode in the zone, or no, not Top Deck Guys. I was thinking of the other podcast that Janjo does, but Top Deck Guys, it's the podcast that me and Janjo do together. We do it every Wednesday, and it's great stuff. And we do have an episode about getting into YouTubing and doing that, so definitely check that out if you're interested in that as well. But yeah, as GLM says, if you want to make the content, make it. If you enjoy it, others will too. And, that's how you got to do it. And I mean, this was just a wild turn. This turn has gone on for a while. It's like also got 30 cards now in graveyard, in Lalo's graveyard. Gotten out a BLS, a DMOC, a blowback, and just OTK'd even through Kuroyuki's DMOC there. So insane stuff. I mean, this is the power of DMOC Gate, right? Like, this deck is just crazy. Like, I don't know, like, Typical Chaos, also very good, right? I'm not going to say that Typical Chaos is a terrible deck in this format, but the power level that this deck can do, the ceiling that it can reach, is so strong. Oh no, they left the duel. They need to omit defeat. No! Okay, well, it's fine. Lalo is moving on here. So, yeah, it's all good. We've got this here. But, yeah. Yeah, so awkward stuff there. I mean, I think Kuroyuki just didn't know that they had to click admit defeat. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt there. But in general, just click admit defeat so that way your opponent doesn't have to wait 90 seconds for you to officially log out. But yeah. Okay, looks like this is also on the first game here, and Chef Steph is playing another sort of DMOC Gate deck. And but it seems like they managed to lose that one, so maybe they bricked a bit, or Haiku just had the removal for it. So that can happen as well. But Hoyt said, Format Library did add 4 formats, and there are quite a few retro Yu-Gi-Oh servers that originated from yours, so you're already a bit influential. Yeah, and I love seeing that, it's making a difference, like, especially, like, when you see tournaments in Imperial and, Fiber that Dump Truck is really, like, putting a lot of effort into over on the Fiber Jar server and the Imperial Forum server. Like, that's really cool to see, because those are like thriving communities around these formats, and they're formats that no one talked about until my channel covered them, and no one played them either. And I think they're pretty fun. I mean, I like Fiber a lot more than Imperial Format, but I'm not going to knock people who like Imperial Format, because Imperial Format is very fun. And I encourage you to join the monthly Imperial tournaments and the monthly Fiber tournaments. But, just cool to see people like appreciating these formats and putting a lot of effort into it. And, as I say, making that effort, that's what matters, right? Regardless of how many people show up, what matters is that you're doing it. And, if you build it, they will come, right? And that's what we're seeing here. So I'm really happy to see that, sort of positive impact is spawning out of this channel. So I love to see that. And I'm hoping I can boost Chimera Tech as a retro format as well, Hoy. We should be getting into Chimera Tech next week, hopefully. I think I'm just going to, well, first I have to make my chain burn video. I'll find some time to record that over this weekend, maybe later today, maybe sometime tomorrow, although it's a bit awkward. As I've said, this weekend is busy for me, so I'm not sure when I'll be able to get it done. But I'll get it done at some point this weekend and post that. So I'll be the chain burn video, and then I'll probably do a hero video to close out Stein format, and then we'll move on to Chimera Tech, and should be a lot of fun. So I'm really excited there. Any experience says that they actually built 3 decks for this tournament: Amazoness, Dark Paladin Turbo, and Water Aggro. Picked Water Aggro on a random decision. If you know, you know. I wonder if the other two could have fared better. Maybe. I think of those, Dark Paladin Turbo is probably the best, I would assume, because if you do manage to stick Dark Paladin, it really shuts down the game a lot. Because it shuts down like Monster Gate Reasoning, a lot of powerful spells there. So I do think the Dark Paladin Turbo probably would have been the best there. But I mean, honestly, like, this format is so high power that like it can be tough to tell what will do well, what will do badly, and stuff like that. Mulder says, only a matter of time before we make our own formats. Maybe that will be the thing that I do after we finally catch up to Modern, and in like 20 years when we reach that point. But yeah, I mean, like, someone did reach out to me in one of the YouTube comments and said, like, we're making a custom format. We'd love to collab with you and stuff. And I'm open to collabs like that. Like I said that I would be willing to collab with them. Reach out to me on Discord if you want those sorts of collabs, and we'll set something up. So I probably won't ever feature them like on the main channel. But if you're doing something and you want me to collab in that way, I will definitely be open to doing that. So yeah. GLM says, the nightly dance of bleeding swords remind us that we still live. And Yu-Gi-Oh! And card games, for me and many others, are that nightly dance, that outlet for enjoyment. Yeah, and that's, everyone needs sort of an outlet to, just have some enjoyment in their life, right? Like, there's got to be something that, you look forward to, you like doing. And if Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be that, I'm happy to have it be that, And I do think that, like, I will say this, because, like, a lot of people, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an interesting hobby, because a lot of people, they really love it, but it can get toxic for them as well. And part of the reason why I like doing the retro Yu-Gi-Oh! Formats is because I think a lot of the time that sort of like toxic nature of it is tied specifically to a given format. Not necessarily because that format's bad, but because you get so wrapped up in that given format and the specific things in that format that can sack you, that, like, for instance, like, let's say like you're playing GOAT, right? GOAT's one of the best formats of all time, but GOAT does have Pot of Greed, Graves of Charity, Delinquent Duo, right? And you're playing GOAT and you just keep getting Trinity, and you're like, I don't want to get Trinity. And you develop this sort of toxic attitude towards that, and it just ruins your enjoyment of the game. You're really angry every time you get Trinity, and it's just like, you dread games because, like, you just fear that combo coming down. Well, maybe that's a sign that you should, take a break from that for a bit, and maybe play a different format without the Trinity in it, and, see how you like that. Maybe that will reinvigorate some of your love for the game. Maybe it won't, and that's fine as well. It's perfectly fine taking a break from the game as well, if it's really bad for you. But I do think that, like, trying something new, refreshing yourself is good, because you want it to be about enjoyment, right? We're doing this for fun, right? And you shouldn't feel like this pressure to have to do it for something other than fun. Now, that being said, people can get competitive. Being competitive is fine, but make sure that, it doesn't become a toxic thing in your life. So I think that's important to note. But yeah. Hoy says, it's funny to see me cover a format a month or two before it's monthly. I'm trying to, sort of avoid that happening with Chimera Tech too much. Like, I will be covering Chimera Tech, by the end of July. So, that will be like 2 months before it's monthly. But I'm trying to, like, spread it out a little bit. I might do, like, collabs with other people to pad out things a little bit. I'm going to mix it up, so that way we're not, like, too far ahead of the tournament schedule in the future. But we'll have to see what happens here. Ooh, this is going to be pretty good here. Change of heart on the Jinzo, so now they're able to get in for 4,000. Means that you can only activate one dimension fusion here, which can be a limiter for the deck. And also you can just try pop the Jinzo here at the end of the turn. So that's pretty good. Get to pitch a Night Assailant, get back another Night Assailant. Night Assailant is a 3 copy of this format, so that is another wild thing there. But yeah, I'm also really excited for Airblade format. I think it should be a lot of fun because I'm a degenerate. I like these sorts of, crazy wombo combo decks that are nuts. So that's really fun. And yeah, as GLM says, Stratos go burger. That's what I want to do. Maldero says, I miss traveling and seeing people once every 2 months, catching up, and then going to a big dinner after at like Olive Garden. Menace 20, top, terrorizing an OG. Good times. I think that like one of the nicest things for a lot of like, old Yu-Gi-Oh players is like, the time leader tournaments are really popping off, and I think it's fun, and that's sort of a way to relive that a little bit. Even if you don't like sort of the modern form that the game has taken, I think you can potentially do things with that. Scapegoat getting fired now, that's kind of interesting. Maybe playing around like an MST or a Dust Tornado. You can't actually use Monster Gate on this because you've summoned that turn, and you can't summon anything else the turn that you activate Scapegoat. But pulling it out here, maybe it's just a way to play around, setback or removal. So, yeah, Breaker coming down here to pop that remaining set. And that will indeed... Will that go through? I assume it will. Yep. Oh, an IO there. Brutal stuff. That also makes sense because, like, you maybe want the IOs. Well, I don't know. Maybe there's an option to set the Scapegoat there. And then if your opponent activates a spell, you chain IO and then chain Scapegoat to the IO. So that's something. But, yeah. Yeah, I'm just so excited for the formats to come, honestly. I love also highlighting the formats that we've been to because I think a lot of these formats are really, really good and not really appreciated as much as they should be. So, that's why I love doing these local streams for these older formats. I think it's great. I think we got a good balance overall with the locals where we do 2 for the upcoming tournament and then go back to the sort of historical timeline that we're doing here. But let me know if y'all want that to sort of change. Maybe you want just 1 locals before a tournament. So that way we can focus more on the timeline stuff. Let me know about that because, everyone has different thoughts on this sort of thing. And I could definitely see some people thinking that it's a bit too much for the GX stuff. But yeah, Malzer says, unfortunate, once we get to formats after 2011-ish, I'll have to take a break. And that's also fine. Not every era of the game's history is going to be for every person. Not every format's going to be for every person. So I think that it's, perfectly fine if you realize that at a certain point, the game isn't for you anymore. And hopefully we'll still be having events to cater to people who, aren't really a fan of a given era once we reach that point. But I do hope that everyone will try out these sort of modern version of a lot of these formats because I do think that, like, when it's not something you're forced to play, they become a lot better to sort of, like, try out. So I do hope that people try them when they come, but if you don't want it, that's perfectly fine as well. Voice asks, will there be an Airblade monthly? Sorry if you already talked about that. No worries. I think I've talked about it in, like, just random streams and stuff in the past. So, it's not something that necessarily, like, is readily accessible there. Like, there's no video of mine that says, will there be an Airblade monthly? But I think I am planning on having one right now. Of course, it does depend on, like, by the time we're getting there, how is the coverage on the channel versus the coverage from the monthly tournaments, and things like that. So, it really does just, we'll play it by ear, honestly. But I think right now I'm thinking we will. But again, we'll play it by ear once it happens. So it's still a couple formats away. So we'll have to see exactly what happens. But it would be nice to have one because I believe that Format Library has not actually had an Airblade tournament. And so it'd be cool to sort of see how that goes. But Reborn on Jinzo is pretty good. Now Scapegoat can indeed protect them here. But looks like they did not have the Scapegoat. They just had a ring. And yeah, that was rough. So it seems like, again, this sort of like typical Chaos deck can also be very good in this format. But, it's sort of like a difference in skill ceiling, or not skill ceiling, but deck ceilings, like what can happen when the deck goes like super all out. So it looks like Haiku is moving on to the finals to face off against Lalo there. So we got Monster Gate versus Chaos. Awesome stuff there. And we'll have to see exactly what happens. I'm also looking forward to Teledad format GLAM. Should be a lot of fun. It's going to be fun. Yeah, we got to call Dad up, with the telephone Dad. We got to call Dad in here, see what happens there. But Teledad, it is a tier 0 format. Maybe we'll find new decks that can compete and stuff. But I think it'll just be fun. Like I enjoy tier 0 formats because I think it's really cool to see what those decks are like. Play around with those iconic decks that were a bit too expensive at the time for most players. It's very skill intensive too, so I think this should be good. Someone say daddy? Yeah, we did. The Teledaddy. Oh yeah. Oh, Malzer says my dad went to get milk and bread 37 years ago. Maybe once we cover Teledad format, he'll come back. I mean, then again, you said they went to get milk and bread. Maybe they did come back from that. Maybe you're just remembering a specific grocery trip. Yeah, I remember my dad went to get milk and bread like 20 years ago, but he did come back. Yeah, milk and bread was on sale at that point. But yeah. Oh no, they got banished. Oh, rip. Sorry about that. Yeah. There are a lot of memes about the dad went to get, whatever and whatever. But so for some people, it's more than a meme because their dad actually did go and left behind the family. So that can happen. Always sad when it does happen. But yeah, it's something that can happen out there. But Hoy said, I thought Airblade would be treated like Amsterdam. There's still potential for that. Part of the reason why I'm more willing to do an Airblade tournament than an Amsterdam format tournament is because Airblade's already in Retrobot as like something there. So like I feel bad if I'm like asking Jazz and I'm like, Jazz, can you add this format that's like basically tier 0 and like pretty degenerate and uncompetitive like to Retrobot just so we can hold a monthly tournament in it? Because Jazz does enough work already. Like Jazz is a superstar in supporting these retro formats and making a service that a lot of people can use. He's a GOAT for that. And I don't want to necessarily add more to his plate, especially if it's like pretty frivolous, all things considered. So yeah, that's why, I'm not really, that's why I didn't really want to do Amsterdam in addition to the fact that it was a tier 0 format, in my opinion. So, maybe in the future though, if people are interested, maybe we'll do a monthly in the future. But, yeah, also this has been a really good turn for Lalo here. They opened with a Forceful to send back a Night Assailant. Then they got the card destructed here to pitch the other powerful card from hand. And now they got a Comfy to send another card from hand to grave. So that's also really, really good. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, they do have their tier 0 formats, to be fair. But, again, it's more like those are something that Jazz added like himself. I'm not sure if he'll ask him to add those or if he just decided to do it. But I feel bad asking Jazz to add them. I already felt bad enough, asking, basically, having Jazz add the other formats that we had, like, Treasure, Imperial, etc. Because, again, it's more work for Jazz. And those formats aren't even tier 0. So, I think this might be, sort of, again, like, what we were talking about earlier, where, like, imposter syndrome or things like that. Like, I don't really feel like a big enough, sort of person in the community to be like, oh, yeah, can you add this format and stuff, do all this extra work and get this thing in there? So, that's part of a me issue, but also I do feel like Amsterdam format is something that, people are not really going to, if they want a format like this, they play Chaos format, right? And so I don't really think anyone would do this ranked. And I also think that, like, there wouldn't really be many tournaments for it. So unless I did a monthly. So, it is like adding to a library, as Janjo says, but like, I think there is a limit to that because at the same time, like there are so many sort of micro formats that you could do just given like certain set releases. Like you could potentially just be like, okay, Soul of the Duels comes out, and between Chaos format and Warrior format, or between Amsterdam format and Warrior format actually. And so let's just have a Soul of the Duels format, right? And Soul of the Duels format is basically the exact same thing as Warrior, just with some very minor differences. And so that doesn't really feel like an impactful format to have there. So I wouldn't necessarily add that to the library. And it's sort of like that slippery slope thing where, like, if you keep narrowing and narrowing, like, yes, it is filling out things more for completion, but also you get just too many different options for people. And if they don't know what those options are, it can be very intimidating for them. So it can be a bit awkward there. Dark Hole coming down, clearing away the entire board, hitting a Faith and a Crane there. So we know the hand is double Night Assailant, and we don't know what else, but still, that's a pretty good hand there. Give the Night Assailants get the loops going. And now there's a Magician of Faith engrave, just to get back that off Night Assailant as well. So very, very good stuff. Yeah, I mean, they already have some micro formats, but again, it's like if there are too many micro formats, then it gets a bit awkward. So, but if enough people do ask, then I agree that, like, they should make it. But I'm not really sure enough people would be asking. Like I myself, like, I don't necessarily need this format in format library, right? Like, I'm like, hey, it's fun. Like, you just do a bunch of like Monster Gate shenanigans, and maybe not all Monster Gate shenanigans, because we're seeing Haiku take full advantage of triple Night Assailant in this format, and just play a very, very interesting sort of chaos control deck with the flip monsters here. But like, I don't know, I'm not really sure it has the legs there. Oh, that duo. Oh, that is so rough. Oh, that is so rough. And card D here, so you get the Night Assailants triggering again. So this is basically like a +2. Oh my goodness. This is nasty. Nasty. Oh my goodness. Night Assailants. Busted stuff. I mean, this is why Night Assailant gets semi-limited and then eventually limited, because the loop is just so wild. But yeah. I do think that, like, in terms of the change department, this one definitely matters. But, again, it's like, I don't want to necessarily ask Jazz for extra work if I don't think that people are necessarily going to play this or not. So, I think the playability factor also makes a difference. And, if I was, like, I'm surprised they added Airblade at all, honestly. Like, if Airblade was not on Format Library, I would not push them to add Airblade. But they did, so that's how it is. But, like, yeah, and also, I'm not necessarily sure I would add Zombie Format on Format Library, right? Like, I'm not sure why Jazz added them specifically, but, like, yeah, I'm not necessarily sure I would include them if I was doing it. And because of that, I'm not going to be like, okay, Jazz, add this thing that, like, I necessarily wouldn't even add if I was running Format Library myself, right? So that's part of it. Like, yeah, that's been my main thing. If people do want to ask Jazz, like, to add it, like, I will support that push if they want to do that. But I'm not going to be the one to ask him that, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, these are all good arguments for adding it to Format Library. So I would not necessarily be one of the people, arguing for that specifically. Like, I would support it again. But like for instance, if people, set this up and they were like, they were doing a push for Jazz to add to Format Library, and Jazz asked me, like, oh, people are asking about this, like, do you think I should add this and stuff? I would say yeah, because, people were doing it, but I'm not going to be the one to first ask Jazz to do that. So that's sort of my thing. This might be bogging down the stream a little bit, but, very, very commanding position for IQ. And also, the one of the flaws of the Monster Gate deck is that in top deck mode, it can be really bad. Sure, you have good top decks like, Reasoning or things like that, but, when you're in a situation like this, if you don't draw those sorts of things, then it can be a bit tricky there. But that's how it goes sometimes. Like, it's sort of like one of the prices that you pay when playing a sort of like, deck like this, right? I don't want to say glass cannon. I don't necessarily think it is glass cannon. You've got a lot of scapegoats or things like that to sort of protect yourself, but it definitely can have its moments. And yeah, Law's just going to scoop it up because it's like, you've got Graceful. You can just pitch double Night Assailant again and just get full value there. So, ooh, that's interesting. Hoy asks, is there any YCS event any of you ever wanted to be made into a format? That is a very interesting question. I don't quite know. Mainly because I don't necessarily have the best grasp on, like, what all the different YCSs were specifically. And generally when I go for new formats on the channel, I don't necessarily look YCS by YCS. I just look at what formats are already established, or like what changes the card pool are introduced. Like, I sort of work my way backwards where I'm like, okay, this format adds these cards, but like, was there a YCS in between, sort of different pack releases, right, that are sort of lumped together in this one format, right? And I'd sort of work my way back from that, but I don't necessarily work in the other way. Oh, that's interesting. Hoy says, I personally wish YCS Brighton 2011 was its own format, since it has Photon Shockwave, but not Order of Chaos. Yeah, that is actually a pretty big change. So, maybe by the time we get to Zexal, maybe we'll sort of shift that around and see what happens there. Because I think, like, for GX, a lot of the packs that are coming out now are, like, not impactful, really. Which is why it doesn't really make sense to be like, okay, is there a format in between when we get, like, Cyberdark Impact and Power of the Duels, right? Like, that doesn't really make sense to do. But yeah. GLM says, I think I'm in a minority, but I really enjoyed Dino Rabbit / Chaos Dragon / Inzektor format. I think that was summer 2012. I think a lot of people are coming around to that format nowadays, GLAM. I think it just comes down to the thing that I mentioned where, like, if you're not forced to play that format as like the modern format, it becomes a lot better because it's like I'm choosing to play this format. I know what I'm getting into. You know, I want some Dino Rabbit, Chaos Dragon, and Zector, you know, wind up shenanigans. And so you're signing on to that, and it's enjoyable because like you know what you're getting into. You're getting exactly what you want, and you're like, this is fun to me, right? So I think a lot of people are liking that. Exchange coming down. Let's go. The tech, the side deck tech. Awesome stuff here. Yeah, that's kind of wild, but it does work against Night Assailant. You take a Night Assailant, and then it's like very awkward for your opponent. Like, what do they do? So yeah. And it looks like Lalo's going to get a graceful charity from that. Oh, wow. That's a pretty good card there. Another question is, do you commit the graceful charity now? Do you wait a turn? Because you might not necessarily want to get the graceful charity engraved. Yeah, they do get to pick Astral Haiku. It is wild. Yep. Exchange is a wild card, but you know, when it does work in metas where it's a good side deck tech, it does work. So what happens here is, yep, there's a macro on your hand that says add to your opponent's hand. And so cool to see that tech coming up here. I will say, Lalo, before the event began, was like, do you have any, like, just sort of standard deck lists that I can net deck here? And so I just sent him basically the deck that I used in the Monster Gate sort of video there. And it did exchange with the side deck. I never expected them to bring it in, but they did bring it in to pretty decent effect here. It's pitching a Royal Decree as well. That makes sense because Geki Break is a very strong card with the Night Assailants there. So very, very cool stuff. Very interesting to see here. We know Call to Haunted is now in Haiku's hand, though. So we know that Lalo can't have a Call to Haunted to bring back that Demok during Astral Haiku's turn. So that's something to keep in mind there. But yeah, wow, that was wild. That was some wild stuff there. Oh my word. I mean, that is wild. Yeah, I mainly put Exchange aside for like random like FTK strategies and stuff because you basically take the best card out of their hand. It's like kind of another hand rip. But you know, a lot of those decks are playing like ways to sort of like draw deeper into things. And also if you take like their one scientist, right? Like Science FTK is kind of cooked. So I think there are a lot of good things for that. But yeah, this is going to be pretty good. Decree makes a lot of sense here, why they gave the call. Pre-mat adding back that, you know, Forceful off the Demok there. Forceful getting to shovel back a card from Haiku's hand again. So very, very good stuff here for Lalo. This is going to be a very, very tricky position for Haiku to come back from here. But yeah, so Exchange does work in that regard. I think I only had one copy of Exchange in the side. Maybe I should have added more. Maybe it would have been better adding more for just more hand rips. But I felt like the one was enough. Like, it's already kind of like you're playing the 3 hand rips already. You know, you don't want to fill up on too many hand rips because that can get a little bit awkward. But, you know, maybe it's worth playing all those. But also, if you draw double exchange is really bad. You can only use one at a time because, like, you activate exchange, you take their best card, and unless you immediately commit that to field, it's just useless to you now. So, I think that is one of the reasons why I went for one exchange there. So, probably only one exchange in Lalo's deck, unless they change that part of the side deck a little bit. But it came up, so happy to see that come up here. Very, very cool stuff. Oh, that Graceful of Lalo's own. Basically like playing 2 Gracefuls in the deck. Are we back in Fiber format? Oh, so cool. Mulder says, I think I quit during that format in 2012, but I also came back like a year later and tried to build a Spellcaster deck with Gaga Shield. That was my last Yu-Gi-Oh! Endeavor. Gaga cards are so funny. Like, there's so much stuff you can do with them. I love that strategy. Partially because, you know, one of the things that I did in the deck letter was got, like, the starter deck that included like Utopia Ray V, I think it was, and that had like Gaga Shield in it, and had some other Gaga cards as well. So that was very fun. But yeah, Vision Circle Gaga Shield, that's very, very neat. So much cool Gaga stuff. I love a lot of the sort of Zexalar archetypes that were introduced. Honestly, I love a lot of the listen, I like a ton of archetypes. You know, from late GX on. Like, I think that's a golden age of archetypes. I think, honestly, most archetypes after that point, I'm a big fan of. And that may seem silly, because it's like, well, you know, that's like pretty much every archetype after GX. Like, but I do think that, like, honestly, every archetype has something to love about it, for the most part. So, it's just fun to see what they come up with. But, yeah. Yeah, you can also play Duo Sentry, Comfy, Triple Dust Shoot. So it is hard to put another hand rip in there, but some FTKs don't necessarily play the most monsters. So you just want to take a powerful card, that's not a monster from their hand, right? But Change of Heart on the set, flipping up a Gravekeeper's Spy. I assume Law's not playing a Gravekeeper's Spy because they're on the Monster Gate deck, but this does enable them to go for a Monster Gate here. And so that's going to be pretty good. They get to mill out, hit a Blowback Dragon. That's going to be pretty fun. So you can use that Blowback potentially on the first 2 sets, figuring that they're dead traps. Or you could use it on the new set just in case it's something. But if it's something, it's probably like Scapegoat or Bulk or something they can chain. So it's just better to go for the old sets, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, GLM says Flamvel, Light Swarm, Blackwing, Evil Swarm. Got to be some of my favorite archetypes. So many cool stuff there. Wow, getting the double heads as the final 2. But yeah, hitting that Raigeki break, going to be pretty good. So you can probably have the read that the first set was called the Haunted. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, getting in for 23. You've got the Blowback to pop potential sets as well. So I do think that this is looking pretty good for Lalo here. And yeah. Ooh, Jander says, I think I know which YCS I'd go with. Which YCS is that? I'm excited for Dual Terminal Jank. It should be some pretty fun content. There's going to be a lot of like fun, like content sort of stuff that I can do in incoming formats, right? Like, I think honestly, I do expect the channel to grow a bit more, you know, in late GX and afterwards, because you get a lot of fan favorite archetypes in a way that you don't quite get in the early GX era, because they just lean more into the archetypes as the game goes on. And so I think probably the channel will grow a bit more in that time. Oh, I should also do the YouTuber thing. If you're watching the stream and you like it, leave a like down below. Also, you know, we got the subscriber count there, 1533 out of 1600. That's our goal to reach 1600, next goal that we got. And, you know, if you want to help us reach that goal, subscribe and the number will go up. So, you know, adding that bit of an endorphin rush to the stream there. But, Janjo says, I'd pick YCS Seattle, Barcelona of November or December of 2012. That's interesting. What was that format like, Janjo? Because that's like 2012 is a pretty good year, I think, for Yu-Gi-Oh. I mean, from what I've heard, and like I wasn't really playing the game like too much at that time, in all honesty. By that point, I was sort of like more backed away from it because like you know, started high school and things were going on there. But yeah, and also that's true, Hoy. I am more prone to get more regulars as you get to formats people are a fan of. The Stein formats are definitely sort of like a dark period for a lot of people. Like, you know, it's not going to get many people if you're like, hey, look, Stein, you know, play this format, right? And even for something like Reaper, which was popular, like it sort of dropped off so much that like that didn't really boost anything there. But I think when we get to like Perfect Circle, that should get people in. I think Teledad will get some people in as well. There are a lot of interesting formats there. And if I market some formats in like 5Ds, for instance, like, you know, this was Edison before Edison or something like that, then, you know, that could also get people in there as well. Janjan said, that's for what I dubbed Abyss format, which was slightly after YCS Miami, which has seen more play recently. Abyss format just adds Abyss Rising. Yeah, I think I watched that history video on it. I'm just bad at placing years to times, you know. Like, I always forget what year Edison happened in. I think it's like 2010, maybe, but that feels too late to me. But then again, like, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm really bad with years. Yeah, and I think that people will, like, hopefully stay after I cover some of their favorite formats. But I think a big thing too is like collabing with other people. I want to do more of that. Unfortunately, some of my GOAT collabs like fell through. Like, I'm not going to name any names, but it generally wasn't like anything like, oh, you know, I don't want to collab with you. It's more just like the schedules didn't line up. So, you know, it was unfortunate that happened, but I'm going to try and do some more. Like, there's not really any TJ and Joe. It's just like schedules didn't line up. And, you know, when I got to the Stein stuff, I wanted to stay in Stein for a longer time, or not a longer time, but just, I wanted to stay in it for actually less time. So I just wanted to blaze through the Stein stuff and not really do many outside videos. But yeah, I think that, like, you know, once I do more collabs and like Edison especially, because like a lot of Edison YouTubers like gain more of a following and stuff, I think that will add a lot of viewers, hopefully. But GLM says, zero context, would you rather watch a video called Cards You Shouldn't Play or a video called The Incredible True Story? So no context entirely. I would probably watch a video called Cards You Shouldn't Play, but that's because with no context, like not even like the Yu-Gi-Oh context, then the Incredible True Story thing just to me becomes like, you know, an AI generated like, oh, let's play this for people on Facebook of like the incredible true story, but the fake story of like, just some like random thing that's like all made up, right? Because that's just what like AI slop is putting out nowadays, right? So, but if it's specifically in the context of Yu-Gi-Oh, I would probably watch a video saying the incredible true story. Oh, Shrimp Jesus. Oh, yeah. Shrimp Jesus is the best form of Jesus. As blasphemous as that may be. But, I'm trying to think of a prawn pun, but I can't think of a prawn pun for Shrimp Jesus. I'm letting down Shrimp Jesus here. I'm probably losing the more religious viewers as we watch the stream. But when I see Shrimp Jesus, I gotta go all in on that. But yeah. Jan Zone said, I think I was mistaken. Abyss Format is before Miami, but after windup. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like there is like the period of windup. I feel like people just don't really pay attention to as much. But yeah. But yeah, I think I would, in the Yu-Gi-Oh context, I would do the wild story from locals. But Janjo's saying card you shouldn't play sounds better. So I don't know. You got two different YouTubers saying two different things. So I think honestly, if they're tied, it means that there's interest in both. So I think that maybe you should make both like eventually and just release them. I'm not sure which one first would be better, but I think honestly like if I was thinking about like if you're releasing both of them and you're like which one will get more viewers first, I think the Incredible True Story one will get more viewers in just by like the nature of that title alone. People will click on the video, and then once they're already in, maybe subscribe to the channel, then they're more willing to click on a card you shouldn't play thing because they're used to the Yu-Gi-Oh content already, and that's a little bit more technical. How aliens save Pokemon? Okay, how aliens save Pokemon? I would click on that. That 100%. That's a wild title. That's a great title. That is something that like, yeah, that should definitely boost the viewers on the channel because that is an epic video. Send me that video once you make it. Because I'm subscribed to your channel already, but I want to know immediately when that drops. I don't want to have to wait in the sub feed because also YouTube's been doing a weird thing too, where like occasionally it won't show videos from people I'm sub to like in the feed, which is kind of weird, but that's how it happens a bit. But yeah. I do agree with that criticism, Janjo, where like it's like, okay, sure it is, like it's not really a true story, but like I do think like that does get people clicking, right? Like that's how it goes. But yeah, no, I'm happy to sub. Like as someone who also knows the power of subs, it's like, I gotta sub to people. I want to make sure that I've subbed. I'm pretty sure I subbed, but let me like double check because I'm pretty sure I subbed. Yeah, I did sub. Okay, I am subbed. Because sometimes I think I've subbed, but I haven't subbed. And so I wanted to make sure that I would. But yeah, I subbed. So yeah. But yeah, also this game's been very interesting. The Blowback Dragon's pretty good here. Getting all 3 Night Assailants engraved is a little bit awkward. Unless you have a way to get those back. I don't know about the painful sending all 3 Night Assailants there, honestly. Seems a bit tricky. But then again, Blowback is just a really weird card here. So you might just... I don't know. It is tricky here. Facing down a blowback pop in your stuff all the time. Yeah. I don't know what I'd necessarily do here, but it looks like they missed on the blowback. So Monster Gate coming down. BLS just staying engraved there. No Monster Reincarnation, I believe, in this format, so you can't bring him back. Or maybe there is. No, that came out later. So, yeah. I really like this Flip Chaos deck. I think it's really, really cool. I think Haiku really innovated with this thing. And we've seen the power of those Night Assailants just getting so much advantage over time. So that is really, really cool. Oh, Change is really good here if they go Change. But yeah, Reincarnation came in FET. Yep. So yeah, I was pretty sure it wasn't in this format, or I probably would have played it in this deck because that just, increases the ceiling even more, I think. But yeah, Change on the set. Take control of that. Maybe flip it up. If you got another Monster Gate, you can tribute that off. Like, oh, it's just a Serpent. Okay, so not really the most high impact Change of Heart there, but oh, well, okay. Yeah, Chaos will do it here. This has to be a CD unless they brought in some Sorks or something. But yeah, CD coming down. So that will be the end of the game there. Oh, and a Reborn on top of it. Oh my God. Oh my God. That is wild. That is wild stuff there. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure there was much Haiku could have done here. I mean, maybe if they saw the MST in hand, they could have shuffled that back. Maybe that's what it was. Because you want the IO to stick there. You're probably winning if the IO sticks. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of like the flaw with this deck too, is that like, if the IO sticks, then like, you know, you can't do anything, right? All your things are spells. So yeah. So yeah, I think they probably had to take MST for their own IO. But also, if you take MST, that telegraphs that you've got IO set. So like, if they've got a way to deal with that, then they can do something there, and you know about Decree. So yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I think this is fine. I think this is fine, honestly. It is what it is. Happens that way sometimes, but you know, that's how it goes in Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And I think Haiku making it this far, showing off what this deck could do, shows that maybe this format isn't tier 0 after all. Maybe the sort of flip chaos stuff is good. And, you know, or I mean, it is good, but maybe it's like on the level as the sort of Monster Gate sort of deck here. And maybe, you know, the meta will shift if people want to continue playing this format. So if you do want to play this, yeah, like as Hoy mentioned, if IO sticks, sucks for almost every deck. That's sort of why I don't really view it as too much of a negative for this deck, because like, you know, IO is such a powerful card. It is just nuts. GG's to you as well, Haiku. Very, very good stuff here. Showing off a very interesting deck, and I think this deck is very cool. And I think if people continue to experiment with the Amsterdam format, it'll definitely be on people's radars now. So very, very awesome stuff there. But yeah, it's like if IO sticks is basically a death knell for most decks in the format. So like, I don't really view it as too big of an issue for this deck specifically, because like, yes, this deck is hit harder by it, but like every deck is. So yeah, I think it's a pretty fun format as well. I encourage people to check it out if they want some sort of like high octane, you know, DM era stuff. Like this is sort of like, you know, chaos format, but with another like crazy deck added, and a couple more crazy deck added, because we got the flip chaos stuff here too, with the triple Night Assailant being wild. So yeah, it's like go on crack. That's a very, very good way to put it. And yeah, so very, very good stuff. Yeah, I mean, that is like, I hope people will enjoy this format, and definitely check it out if you want to play more of it in the YGO from Zero server, linked in the description down below. And let me know if you want more events with this format or not. I probably won't host a monthly for it anytime soon, but if there's enough interest, I can host a monthly for it eventually, or maybe we can return to it in the locals in the future. But I hope that you all enjoyed this stream as always. If you want to join in later locals, also join the Discord down below. You know, subscribe, like, do all that YouTuber stuff there. Really helps out the channel quite a bit. We're just trying to grow the community as much as possible, and that helps the community grow. So, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed as always. I will be hosting another locals next week, and that locals will probably be in Stein format. It might be in the next format down the line historically. I need to actually check my schedule with that. But it might be in Stein format as well to prepare for the upcoming monthly. But either way, it should be a lot of fun. So I hope that you all, you know, are there for that if you want to play in it, or if you just want to watch. Either is fine. But I hope that you all enjoyed as always. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero. I'm signing off.